right, then you actually shun in your soul. Anything that don't rub you right in this world, address it, deal with it. Because you know what's going to happen? You're going to get sick. And you're going to lay down. And you're going to try to figure out what's your problem. And the doctor going to hook you up to a machine that can't answer the problem. Because that eruption, you put kind of quiet that eruption. And you quiet the eruption. And one day it just comes. You're ill. You got cancer or whatever you saw you have. And my carpenter, I probably can use the saw, but can maybe not use the can. Anyway, because it's cutting you apart. But when your soul starts erupting, and very good book in terms of a soul eruption is it's Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, his life. Read about his life. And all this eruption. He's never comfortable with slavery. And he keep fighting that uncomfortableness that he was having. Marcus Garvey, he was never comfortable with our state of condition, and he keeps fighting. My brother, he's not comfortable, and so he set up this place. Even when things seem to be going bad, just like the Matrix. Look at the Matrix, because we said, oh, it's all over for Harlem. But look at the Matrix. At the end, when it seems like it's all over, enlightenment. The power to master all these forces that was going to master him. And that's what Obia is. That's what voodoo is. Obia is to obey. I was supposed to have an Obi seed here, but I don't have the Obi seed. I have the Wanga. I want to have the Obia Wanga. So we have the Obi Wanga Nobi. But I have the Wanga here, the Wanga seed. Those are Wanga seeds inside this thing here. I didn't have the Obi seed. Okay. So that eruption, you don't quiet that eruption, you deal with it. You're not comfortable, then you state your claim. You work on it. Don't stifle your uncomfortableness because you stifle your soul. You stifle your spirit that coming off of your soul to tell you, nah, this is not right. That's what our ancestors do to in order for us to be in this state. Things that are not right, they address it, they deal with it, they fight it. But once we start pushing that uncomfortableness away, we'll never get to soul level. We'll never activate the soul. Because remember, with everything that's bothering you, there's that divine person within you have the answer to all the questions of all questions. So remember this. The questions of questions can be answered if we tune into the divine self. Should I repeat that?
Yes.
Can we all say that? The questions of questions can be answered if we tune in to our divine self. And that's what happens. So there is always a way out. That's how they say. There's always a way out. But the way, you don't want to stifle that person, that real person within you, your soul. So every time the soul ruptures as your spirit, it's similar, as we were saying earlier, we were talking about a sunspot cycle. Those sunspots keep coming out of you because it needs to address. I had one the other day, right here in Harlem, on Friday night. I was with the World Empress on Friday night. And I have certain things and tape that I want to share with you all, because even when I go back and listen to it, I get emotional because I capture the emotion that I felt of the event. So even if you listen to it, you have the captured emotion stuff. So I'm going to try to make it available, but I will make it available. On Friday night, I was in, Imani had a gig with the World Empress, I called Imani. She had a gig with some friends at one of the shops down the road. They were singing and sharing their talents. And coming up, we reached by the train station on 125th, and there was an elder that I recognized, and we were talking, and I was asking him about Professor Simon, because I remember him and Professor Simon. He said, Professor Simon done gone. And I was like, wow, because I didn't know, because I remember Professor Simon. Yeah. He got the devil over devil. I remember that. I remember that document. I remember him, very knowledgeable. Bless him. And while I was there, the elder was saying, there's too much of guns going on around here, But he actually was telling us something's getting ready to happen. And we were saying, what are you talking about? Right then and there, a gang of youths just run out in the street. Police are chasing a gang of youths right in Harlem. And they're running, and they're young, they're under 20. And the police guy run down by the train, right where we were, run down there, the police got out his gun. right there in front of us, got out his gun to shoot the brother. And we said, don't shoot, don't shoot. And you know what he says? Shut to F up. Shut to F up. And that's what he was saying to us. And he was talking to the brother. I said, and you know, I was very upset after. I couldn't be upset then because he was so emotional then that, you know, you couldn't even think properly in that sense. But had we not been there saying, don't shoot, he would shoot a guy in his back. He was prepared to shoot him in his back. Even though he was running and you could see clearly he didn't have anything in his hand. He didn't have no gun. And even if he had a gun, because it's a gang of youths, and somebody, the report comes that together, a gang of youths running, you don't just shoot anyone. Because we don't treat dogs like that. And in those kind of uncomfortableness, you don't shut down. And so I was uncomfortable after the situation or while the situation. And I'm not going to shut that uncomfortableness because it's, you know, it's like, wow. You know, when I went on the train, I had to stop, I pulled up on the police, I said, this is how you all treat the children around here. And it's like, what are you talking about? And so I started explaining to him. Because after they let go the boy, because they hold him for a little while, and had to talk with him, and they let him go. So right there,
tells you something.
Yeah? But the kind of treatment is like, wow, it's a police state.
Yes.
It's been a police state. But the thing about this police state, the police have more power than the judge. Because they make final decision in the road. How you cannot, that's not law. They make final decision in the road. So therefore they don't have to take you to the judge to find out what's the case. He was prepared to do him in right there. Had we not said don't shoot. He didn't care that there was an elder there saying don't shoot. Because the elders is not respected. We have to change that. And some of us come to change that. That's what we're talking about. Sorry. Some of us come to change that. We are here to change that. But if we shut ourselves away, if we shun those things away, we would not change that. Because we forget our mission. We forget our mission. And that's why it's important to connect to your soul. Because we have a reason to be here. We have a right to the tree of life. We have a right to exist, regardless to the police state. We got to question those police too. We got to talk to them. Because in the Caribbean we have dogs that run rabbit. But dogs, even though they run rabbit, we have to train them a certain way. You know how they train a dog to get rabbits? This is what I learned growing up. They would take a rabbit that's dead after they catch a rabbit, yeah? And they would take the meat of that rabbit and put it in a tin and let it rot. Let it get stink. Very stink, and then let the dog smell it. And that's to train the dog to run after rabbit. So even naturally, the dog wouldn't just run after rabbit like that. The dog is not trained like that. The same thing, the police are trained. They're trained negatively to work with to operate the way they are. But we also come with our training. But if we forget our training, then later on we say, wow, we were the ones who were the jazz masters. We were the ones who bring the blues into being. But just like a rose as beautiful as it is, have its protection, isn't it? The thorns. We have to have our thorns. We have to have our protection. We can't operate like this. Don't care how spiritual we are. We have to have our protection. We have to address our problem. We have to address it. And so that's what, the way to address it is our soul consciousness. Because when we get the message as to how we have to operate, it's going to be right. Because when we link up, if Lester didn't do his duty, I wouldn't be here. You understand? Making this. And now the brother see it, and he says, yes, I need one of these. And then other people are going to see it, they need one of these. And before you know it, we're bringing down more higher consciousness energy from above. That's what this does. Now he did his job, and I'm here. There's other brothers do their job, and we're here. And that's what's important. That's why Martin Luther said, if you're a sweep street, do your job. Because you don't know how you inspire somebody else. I've been inspired. I'm in tears, I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
And with the property, we're going to take a 10-minute break, Clyde. and get you some water or whatever little DVDs or books.
All right, thank you all very much. That was great. I must say, I was talking to Azariah the other day, and I said, you know, Azariah, I admire Azariah because I remember Azariah from back in the days, as we say over here. And Azariah was up on the technology. You know, when things started to change and a lot of technology starts flooding, or information technology starts coming out, Azariah was up on the technology in terms of how we can use it for spiritual and black empowerment. And I congratulate him for that the other day down there, down in the 125th, because I see that is like, you know, because you see where we are now, some people are not aware of how they can use certain computer technology to help with the advancement and get the information out. But I remember when you all put up the black dot, and I was like, wow, it was heavy. Because a lot of the technology that you was using, a lot of people wasn't up onto it, and it was real heavy. So, you know, congratulations really, really the forward thinking. But this is very important. It's how we can utilize, you know, modern technology in terms of advancing. Because see, we're in a time where things are speeding up, and things are need to be speeding up because of the changes that we're getting ready to experience. And because of that, I remember when I used to be studying and trying to gather information, a lot of information wasn't out there, wasn't apparent. You know what I mean? But now everything is like spiral up. You know, for us to really grasp that. You can learn all of this stuff so fast. I mean, I'm able to listen to, I like to talk about that a lot. I'm able to go through all 14 books in my busy schedule, and I'm a very busy person because I'm creative. And I'm able to be on the bus listening to a book. I went through all 14 Laxam Rampa books in less than 2 weeks. And that's heavy because the books are fine print, but because I put them into the speech document, I'm able to go to those books. And for a lot of people may say, oh yeah, I'm familiar with Laxam Rampa when I was growing up. But read it now, you're an adult. You read that when you were growing up, or read it now. Because a lot of the metaphysics that we're trying to understand and be aware of, they know it, they were practicing. I remember in one of these documents he was talking about when he was living in the US, and yes, he was living here, and his masters in the mountain call him with no telephone. They're speaking to him. He's in the US, his masters in the mountain in Tibet, and speaking to him. And he talks about that. These are powers that is available to every one of us if we access it. We can intertravel, we can leave our physical body, which is the house, and we can journey. And we do journey. But most times, because of the denseness of the material world, we don't remember these journeys. And that's why sacred geometry, pyramid, all these different objects and different spiritual technology are here to help us, to speed up our spiritual growth. Because it's like the rage against the machine that we're experiencing now. You know? And so it's very important that we pay attention to how we can best utilize technology in that sense for further our growth or growth as spiritual beings, uncovering the spirituality that is who we are. Okay, I'm supposed to be talking about the next sign because we just been on one sign. How much time we have, Azariah?
About
45 minutes. Okay. All right. The next sign, because we were doing Aries, Libra, so now we're talking about Taurus, Scorpio. So Taurus, which rules the second house, the sign. Oh yeah. All right. Okay. Taurus is all about your value system. It says the second house rules the second house of value. But I see Taurus also energy as like an appetite. You know, wherever your Taurus is in your chart is what you have appetite for. Anybody know where the Taurus is? What house the Taurus is ruling for them? First house, second house, third house, You don't know. Are you Taurus? You know? Your Taurus in the 11th. Okay, so the Taurus in the 11th house.
Aries is 10.
Okay, so it's Aries is 10, Taurus is the 11. So that's your house of value. And so museums, libraries, you see, because the 12th house natural ruler is Aquarius. And so Aquarius deals with the public resource. And so it gives you an appetite to want to grasp, information along the line of where your Taurus is. You see what I'm saying? So if it's whatever house it is, that's the appetite. Taurus are known for like to eat, like to diet, like the taste. That's the energy. But it's also your value, what you value. You see? Yes.
How does that apply if your moon is in Taurus?
If your moon is in Taurus, then it works on an emotional and emotional. So your emotional, it plays out that because your moon is exalted. Okay? So you'll be gravitated to the emotional. Okay, the moon is, they have a thing they used to say for the children, the cow jumps over the moon. But actually the Taurus is exalted. The moon is exalted in Taurus. So the moon is very powerful in Taurus. So that aggression or that emotional energy plays out on the appetite, area. So the Taurus moon people would gravitate to hard work. You understand? Because Taurus actually is about work, but it works on the lunar. So whatever they approach to that, it would be like on the physical plane. Okay? So they want something tangible. You understand? So not as something that's illusion, they want something they can touch. You know what I mean? So it is something, because it's also the planetary ruler is Venus. So it has to be beautiful. It's got to be pretty. You know what I mean? It's got to have some work done to it. You understand? So therefore they're practical. Make sense? Yes. Okay? So the emotion plays like that. But it's something that it just draws. It's like appetite. That's how I look at the energy. My Taurus is in the 9th house. And so I gravitate to philosophy, wants to learn, wants to higher learn, get into the science, wants to read the books, wants to get into the information. But not my Taurus, but my North Node is there too. So this is my future, where I'm heading in that sense. You understand? So that's how it is. So what you value? What is it you like? Think about it. What is it you love? Your value system. What's your value system? So you could evaluate yourself, really. Because sometimes, we may be doing a job because this is really based on bread and butter. Really taking care of the rent, taking care of the house. But there's deeper things to what you value, because you value that because you have to get along with your daily routine on the earth plane. But deep within, whether you work in construction or you're working in the office, there's something else pulling you. That's your value system. There's a value that's based on the world, and the world, how you operate in the world. But there's something else that is your calling. Pay attention. Search that out. I'm always drawn to this thing. I'm always drawn to this other thing. What is it that you're drawn to? Look at it and see why. You see, because that's your soul quality at the same time. That's your emotion. It's drawing maybe something creative. You understand? Maybe the water. Maybe the plants. What is it? Important. So it's good to really just, evaluate yourself along that line and see, because that's also, the deeper aspect of that is your soul, what is drawn to. You understand? Growing up, I remember, even looking back on my life, I didn't do a lot of reading growing up in terms of study. Okay, but I was interested in studying because I used to go to the garden or go in the woods, in the bush, and I would bring home like mango or salsa. I'd bring a big salsa home, and my mom make it into a drink. And so I was gravitating to something natural. I was gravitating to the fruit world. And even though my sister, they liked chicken and stuff, I never liked those things. You know what I mean? I like something that is natural. But I had verbalizing, which is another thing. But I always gravitate to certain things along that line, my value system. And so later on, when I find the information that gives me a full understanding, straight in, I went to be a vegetarian. I just dropped everything. I was learning along the line because something was pulling me. But finally, when I got this, something comes to a full thing in terms of understanding, I dropped whatever I was doing in terms of certain things I was eating that's not good for my physique. and just move straight into a natural diet. But I was being drawn little by little. You've been drawn little by little in your life to certain things. See what it is. Is it valuable or is it invaluable? Or not valuable? Because invaluable could be another word in that sense. Okay? Think about that. Is this going to be helping me on my sole purpose, what I'm drawn to? Is it valuable for me to help me to access my higher consciousness, to realize my purpose? Evaluate it like that. Okay? And then, any question along that line? Yes.
Well, I actually want to go back to something you were talking about just a few minutes ago when you said that you were talking about like the balancing act and how people who may have done certain things in a previous life and they have to come back. Like, for example, someone who was a Klansman may come back as a police officer, whatever. So what I'm basically getting at is, where is this balancing act? Because, you know, in Azariah and I, we get into this conversation all the time, but it seems like evil's been kicking ass, and I don't see a balancing act. I mean, it just seems like it's so easy to put people under mind control to gravitate toward doing evil.
Then what you
but
need,
yeah, it's like an uphill struggle to get people to do what's right.
What you need, my brother, is the Divine Pymander. The book, The Divine Pymander by Hermes, is explained there's nothing here true. Everything here is a falsification of the truth. It says corruption for the generation so it can be generated. This is not the workshop of perfection. This is the workshop into perfection. It's never going to be perfect down here. This is the workshop where we come to work things out. Yes, a Klansman may come back to reorganize his life, to move up. You understand? But then he gets trapped back into the ways. Not that he come to be a policeman, but he get, you know, something of that appetite of that past life may appeal to him, even though he may come not to want to be in that. But then, you know, the whole evolution or the whole resurge, you know, reawakening of the soul, it's not just a, okay, I'm going, I come back, I correct it. No, it's an ongoing process. It's not a one lifetime. You know what I mean? Some people can do it, yes, based on how they, you know, what society or how they've been coached or where they're born into. Some people can do it. But imagine a Klansman come back in an environment such as this one, where he can get a job as a police, and then he remember, you know, ignite some of that old negative past. It's easy for him to roll back out after he make a decision that he's not going to roll back into that. You see what I'm saying?
So where does the
something is still
concept...
gravitating, something is still triggering him.
So where does the
understand?
concept of justice fit into this? You know, it's like, I mean, in terms of like, because the world is dominated by white supremacy right now, and you know, people talk about karma, people talking about getting your just due. When are they going to get theirs?
Okay.
You know.
Okay, we like to say it's dominated by white supremacy, but it's not dominated, you know, by white supremacy. It appears to be dominated by white supremacy. Appears that way. But really, it is a sham in the end of the day, really. You know what I mean? It is a sham in the end of the day. Okay? The problem is there's souls, yeah, being born, and there's lots of souls coming and going and coming and going. Okay? It's not going to be perfect in that sense that this is just a workshop for soul come and go. It's always to fix the problem at different levels. But let's talk about the astrology. How does that fit in? Okay. The souls, a lot of the souls born are coming up in the 60s, born with their Uranus and Pluto in Virgo. And so back in the 60s coming up, we have a lot of the experiment in the realm of, or what they call it, food technology. You know, herbal technology which manifests itself into LSD and all those different things. Yeah? But they had a powerful conjunction of two planets in Virgo that spiraled the whole health conscious revolution that's still dominating today, regardless. Okay? But now, as we come up, I mean, there's different conjunction that happen by planets that influence society different. Right now, the youth, say 70s, 80s, coming up, they have the Libra generation that have Uranus in Libra. Okay, now we're getting ready to have a Uranus and Aries opposition, Uranus opposition in the world. Okay, now this whole MySpace, Facebook, all of those energies that happens where the relationships are getting, people are just connecting by on the internet and stuff like that. All those are stronger influenced by planets, and preferably the Uranus in Libra generation. So yes, the fight is different as we're moving up and different levels. Okay, so what used to be stable one time is different now. The police brutality. Okay, but then you have certain aspects that's going to manifest that police brutality itself is going to be fixed in such a way, because it's an issue that is challenged society to be pay attention of. But sometimes when you have like for instance, police is ruled under Saturn. So if you have Saturn in his falls or Saturn exalted, you could have the issue, playing out. So sometimes we have these things happening, but it's when the planetary forces change around to like a heavy conjunction that re-influence the whole thing and change the whole status. Like I was interviewing the police on the number 5, and I was asking them, I was telling anybody, said, well, this is not England. They do things different over there. They don't walk with no gun. Even though a few police walk with gun in England, most of the police have a stick. Now that's just something that they can access here, because that's an example of how society can function with a big stick. To a certain extent, even though I don't approve the big stick. You understand? But if that could happen in England, it could happen here. Why not? Do you see? So there's things that we can draw from and look at. But then we go back into African society. We never had no jails. We never had no prisons. We can go back to that culture. But in order to go back, we have to go within. Because as above, so below. As within, so without. You understand? So yes, evil is going to be rampant in the world in such an extent, because this is where we come to work things out. You understand? They have a cycle where I recommend the Hanuman story, the cycle of a 13,000 years of darkness and the 13,000 years of light. Okay? In the 13,000 years of darkness, this is where evil run rampant and manifests strong. But in the 13,000 years of light is where the enlightenment, or where the higher beings come down to correct and certain things get sorted out. So we're working out one situation, and this is why everything concerning, everybody talking about 2012 and the whole chain, they look at this as a marker between the light and the darkness of the 13,000 years. Okay? So things are spiraling upwards towards a more spiritual society, more spiritual discipline in that sense. So when we look back a couple of years ago, 10, 20, 40 years ago, and what used to take place, things has changed because we are an upward climb. But we come to change those things. It just don't happen overnight. You understand? So it's working its way out, but we have to play a role, and we can't forget that we come here to play a role in that. Okay? Does that answer?
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
Because you only could replace evil with good. You only could replace it. You can't add to it. And it's going to happen because, as he says, there's nothing down here true. He said the only thing down here true in the Emerald Tablets is the S-U-N. He said that's the only thing down here is true. Everything is falsehood. Corruption for the generations so it can be generated. And so, yes.
I don't know which house it is, but the house of communication. I have about 5 planets in there. Like most of my chart is like everything is in that section.
That's the third house.
Yeah.
It's Gemini.
Yeah.
Okay, but so it's in the third
Like
house.
Neptune,
but what planet?
Mercury, all
Okay.
that's in that house.
What sign is on the cusp of there, on the third house? So all the lots of planets in the
I'm
third
a
house.
Virgo, and I have a Cancer rising. I know that.
Okay, so if you Cancer rising, so we go 3 signs forward, yeah? So that's Cancer, yeah? Leo, and that's Virgo. So you have Virgo in the 3rd house.
And I am a Virgo.
Okay, so your Sun is also in the 3rd house.
Yes, yes, Sun, Mercury, Neptune, quite a few.
Okay, okay. Okay, so the 3rd house is about communication and how you communicate. But it's also, because it's ruled about Venus, it's not only communicating, but it's also analyzing. It's how you look into the communication, how you analyze things and how you know, so therefore, and actually some of the stuff you're doing too, because not only that, you're analyzing a lot of different things that's happening, and you're putting out different, see what I was talking about? Different chapters. You see, you don't have one big pile in that sense. You have this information, little mini information and different things. So you can cover a whole lot of subject when it comes out. You know, you can cover my health, nutrition, you can cover metaphysics, you cover all these different things. You know, so all these things also plays under the Gemini, because Gemini is the, you know, is the thinking mind, the everyday mind in that sense. So it doesn't happen in a big scale. But you see, all the communication, you have analyzed a lot of the different things that's happened and makes it available. You see? So it's how you analyze things in that sense and communicate it. You understand? Because you may look into certain things and you may change it around so that it can be more applicable to your community. Do you do that?
Right, yeah.
That's how you work,
yeah.
In that sense. And then you have to look at where your Mercury is,
right.
Because that will be the ruler of that house.
Yeah, actually, it's in communication.
Okay.
Planet Mercury.
Okay. And your Cancer rising.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And,
So Cancer
sun
rising
sign
goes
is
by the
Virgo.
moon. You know where your moon is?
No.
Okay, that's because your moon is your chart ruler. Because whatever sign you're rising, that moon rules the whole. So everything comes around the emotion, around the moon energy. So you need to find an earth, air, fire, water where the moon is.
Actually, I might go ahead and say it's probably in communication, because when I look at my chart, Myra, Jerry did it.
Okay.
Yeah, Jerry did it.
Okay.
Everything was in that house.
Okay.
Maybe only one planet was somewhere else. Everything
Okay.
else was just there.
So you're good at your analysis. Analysis, you communicate, you research and brings out.
Yeah.
You research and share, research and share. Looking into it, bring it out, bring it out, bring it out. Yeah. Yes.
I do a little bit of that.
You do it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very interested in Victoria, but you should put on your movies as you know.
Oh, you do talk as well?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
taught myself.
Okay,
I have
you
cancer. I have
You remember.
cancer.
Sorry, your what?
I have cancer.
Cancer center. You probably have a stellium as well.
I have double.
Eh? Okay. So with cancer, then especially your cancer, very important to follow the moon along, because the moon is the fastest moving planet. And remember, the moon have a summer, the moon have a spring, the moon have a fall, and the moon have a winter. Do you all know that? Eh?
No?
Oh yeah, he does. You know it. I'm going to tell you how you know
You know
it.
now,
New moon is the springtime of the moon, while full moon is the moon summer.
So we're about
Yeah, the first quarter is the fall of the moon, and the last quarter is the winter. Same cycle. All the planets go through that cycle. So you're not just limited to the sun. I said I have to tell you this in a tricky way today. Okay? So when we're looking at the moon, we're in the summer period of the moon, because we're in the full moon cycle right now. So the moon summer. And so because the moon goes through those 4 seasons so fast, then you also experience that as well. And it's important, because I need you to say this also. You have a long-term cycle with the moon also, which like now, every 2.5 years. Yeah, now I just came out of my last quarter moon cycle. I'm in my new moon cycle. Just right when I enter my new moon cycle, I started making a lot of the sacred geometry symbols that you know, some of those. I started breaking up. I started before and stopped. And I went through that the whole last quarter moon. Actually, one of the things why I ended up in England is because my mom was sick. My mom had cancer, and she was sick. And I packed when I went to England. And actually, a friend of mine said they were trying to find out if I dropped off the planet. And that's what happens. Sometimes you go in the last quarter, you go in the moon winter, if you may call it. Now I'm in my moon spring now. You see? So if you make in a cycle like that, you make in a full moon cycle, you make the last quarter, first quarter, it's good to know the cycle on that bigger scale, which is 2.5 years. that happens. Because that can tell you a lot of what happened in your life.
So it's always the full moon is the summer cycle, and the new moon is the spring cycle.
Yeah, because the moon is coming out again. And you know something about the new moon is actually the sun and the moon is in an intercourse together. The sun and the moon is giving pregnancy to it's an intercourse that gives birth to the sign each month. So for instance, if you're we're in Leo, actually we're in Virgo, like what were you, 22nd, we're in Virgo. So Virgo opens up exactly, even though the sun is in Virgo and the moon don't reach there, we're not in Virgo yet in the sense of its empowerment, because the moon, which is the feminine energy, and the masculine energy, when they get together, that's the new moon. They give birth to what they call the new moon. So the new moon is always when the sun and the moon together. The full moon, they're opposite each other. Okay? So if you look at your chart, sorry?
The nodes that go.
Yeah, that's calculation. That's calculation in the moon. But when you look at your chart and you see the moon and the sun is opposite, you know you're born on the full moon. That's what Michael Jackson had. Michael Jackson's sun is in Virgo and his moon is in Pisces. So right there, he's a full moon child. So he was born on the full moon. If you look at it in the chart. When you look at the chart and you see the moon and the sun in the same sign, you know you're born on the new moon. Or squaring this first quarter or last quarter. So that's how you understand. But to know whether you're in the full moon, new moon cycle, you do the calculation, which is called the progress. You know, you do the progress or you do the transit to see where your transit, where your progress moon is or your progress sun. Okay? Because right now, for instance, I'm born under the sign Leo, but by progression I'm not Leo. Because every year, and this is biblical as well, every year your sun moves 1 degree. That's what makes you older. People ask you how old you be, and I talk about this a lot. When I ask your age, I'm asking you the rotation of the sun in your chart. So if you tell me you're 12 years old, I know your sun has made 12 rotations, 12 cycles in your life. But suppose I ask your age by your moon, that's a different calculation. We don't use that yet. So we could look at your age by your moon, you know. But we're looking at it right now by the sun. Yeah? Astrotheology. Yeah? So your solar cycle, you know. So in that sense of your progress, it tells you how far your sun has progressed. So every year is 1 degree from where it started from. So if you're born your moon with your sun at 1 degree Leo, next year you're 2 degrees Leo, the following year all the way up until you end up out of Leo and you're in Virgo and you say, wow, why I'm doing things different? Because you enter another sign, it's different. You know what I mean? Then you get old and you move into Libra, you're doing things different. It's a different operation. So it's important to be aware of this.
So your sun sign actually changes.
It changes, yes.
Okay.
I had a guy that I did his chart in England, and actually his sun sign, because he was born an Aquarius, his sun sign was progressing into Aries. His whole life changed because Aries is a whole new beginning. You know what I mean? And his whole life changed around that. And so we go to that. You know, I met the Wealth Empress the other day, and she was telling me, it's like she just came out the vortex. I said, let me do your chart. Let me see what's going on. Because it's like, you know what I mean? Because, you know, you find, like, Azura, you're doing this now. You might just stop altogether and do something else. And people like, but Azura used to be on the road. And people don't understand, because you may go on the last quarter, you may go on a new moon cycle, whole genre for you. Change. I didn't know I was going to go change.
Right now.
Eh?
I don't want to cuss.
You have to cuss. See? But it's the same for all of us. But we're not doing the calculation, you see. And that's why it's important to have this dialogue and look at your astrology and stuff like this. Because then you can see, okay, this is what's happening. You know you have the urge to do something, but when you're looking at the chart, it shows you what's behind the urge. Like I didn't realize that was in my last quarter moon, even though I had the information along the time of my mom passing away. A lot of that moving to England, a lot of that hibernation that I went into was all along my last quarter moon. The last quarter moon is hidden. You know, my friends say, like you drop off the planet.
Yeah.
That's what they say. You know? And then my new moon comes and I start making stuff and I start pushing it, you know? And it's like you feel the urge now. But my new moon now is in Virgo and all, and you know, different things that happen. But we all go through this. It's not limited to me. We all go through these cycles. But the thing about it is is that we have to be aware of it. And that's why institutions such as this one, or schools of learning, or brothers with the videos, or what we do is to help us to remember and to realize that yes, we're doing it by knowing, not just by faith. It's just happening, I just know. Some people, they just know. We go to that. You know what I mean? They get a premonition and they know, and they just know. But they don't want to know what's behind it, just know. But that just know have to do with Pisces, and the balance of that is Virgo, analyzing. You see? So that's why we're doing the science in both polarity, so you understand that everything has the polarity. So we were talking about Taurus, the polarity for Taurus is Scorpio, the dark waters,
What
the
sign?
hidden emotion. Eh?
What sign, what planet rule those two signs?
But the planet that rules Taurus was Venus.
Venus?
Yes. Love and beauty. And duty too. Okay? So the sign for Scorpio would be with Pluto and Mars. And we know, if you go back and check, when they had the whole AIDS virus, you had that Pluto in Scorpio. You understand? And you could look at the whole thing of the terrorism and the change of philosophy and the different things that happened when Pluto went from Scorpio to Sagittarius, and now Pluto is in Capricorn, and everybody about reshuffling business, changing business. But Pluto is the one that churns things out. Look underneath, dig up, research, find out. Pluto, churning up, stirring up. Pluto energy, stirring things up.
You know it.
And that's what's
Things are
happening.
stirred up. You got
Stirring
that.
up. And so what we're storing up that dark, okay, Scorpio we say is the dark water. Is that dark water, that's where, Scorpio will have those hidden emotions. I always say to Scorpio, watch those hidden emotions. You got something bothering you, don't just lock it away, deal with it. So if you're a Scorpio, it's always to have that self-evaluation. Because Scorpio energies rules the banks. That's where we put that money away to savings. And that's where those jokers take it out when you're not watching. You know what I mean? That's the hidden emotion. Money is your hidden emotion, isn't it? You work hard for it. That's your emotion. You go there and you hammer and you saw and you write and you do all that and they give you payment and you put it away. That's your hidden emotion too. You call it monies. And I call it monies is like Capricorn, The more needs you have, the more you structure, isn't it? Yeah?
Sounds like you're speaking a lot about archetypes.
Yes, but it's archetype within though. It's your inner power. It's your inner ability. It's looking at it from not just flesh and bones, but look at the influence behind, because you are not just flesh and bone. You know what I mean? But look at what's behind that. So when we're looking at those powers within, how they operate, like for instance, we were talking about Pluto generation with the Virgo, where they have the Pluto in Virgo and the